Salam sejahtera and welcome to this episode of Lepak with the Machas. Okay, this is a more laid back kind of segment, all right, where we get new faces on JomUnited. Okay, if you want to be a part of this episode, easy, all right, record a short video of yourself and tell us three things. Okay, number one, how long have you been supporting Manchester United? Number two, what's the reason of supporting the biggest club in the world? All right, and number three, what's your most memorable or maybe favorite moments of being a Manchester United fan? Okay, after that, you just follow the link in the description below and upload your videos. Okay, we will run through your videos and if you fit our criteria, right, we'll be in touch, right? Simple as that. Okay, so having said all of that, all right, today we got two fresh faces, okay, happy faces. Okay, just as a disclaimer, right, we haven't played Arsenal yet, all right? If we already play Arsenal, probably these two guys will be crying, or shedding a tear or whatever it is, all right? Okay, maybe let's just start with Roger, all right? Roger, maybe just briefly introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Roger. I've been a fan of Man United for as long as I can remember. I was a season ticket holder while I lived in the UK. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Manish, I think it's probably one of our youngest, more younger pandit that we have. All right, so maybe a brief introduction.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Manish. I'm 18 years old, and I've been a Manchester United supporter ever since the, if I'm not mistaken, the 08-09 season. So yeah, I go way back. It's great to be here on the show after a long time, I would say. Yeah.
After your SPM.
Yeah. I've been really waiting for this moment, so yeah, it's good that it came.
Okay, so treasure it, right? Treasure it. Right? Okay.
Until tomorrow with Australia.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Roger, right, let's start out with you. Let's get into the more juicy part. All right. So what were your expectations at the start of this season, all right, versus what you are feeling right now with we got 5 more games to go?
So obviously we had just finished second in the year before. We added the best young player from Germany, one of the best defenders in the world, and the best player in the world. So expectations were definitely high. I did not expect us to win the title because we did not sign a CDM, but I definitely expected us to at least be in a title race, to actually challenge, to actually be there or thereabouts by Christmas. And the way we have self-destructed is definitely self-inflicting. Obvious problems within the structure was left unaddressed from the first team all the way to the top. The coaching staff was the wrong one to begin with, and the way we have scouted players have been laughable. The only positive thing that I think can come out of this season is that Ralf Rangnick has come in, and this man has highlighted all the shit that we have in the club. He called out the medical department the other day. He called out the players for their lack of fight willpower the other day, and yes, it's absolutely refreshing to have someone say things as it is. Unlike Ole, who always protected the Glazers, who always protected the players, and so on. Yeah.
Okay, Manish, just to add on to what Roger is saying, right? How much do you think that the way that, especially Ralf Rangnick, recently, I think in the past few games and whatnot, he's been very, very vocal and whatnot. Maybe early on, he wasn't so vocal. He was being more conservative with his comments and whatnot, right? So do you think that maybe he's on his way out of the club already? So he's like, I don't want to tarnish my legacy. Let me just tell it the way it is.
I mean, if anything, it's giving the fans more transparency. It's something which Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has failed to do, I think, in his 2 or 3 managerial years over here in Man United. It's definitely like what Roger said, it's refreshing because there's someone who's actually here, who actually sees through all our flaws, calls them out for it. And it's definitely not going to start like a rebuild, but it's definitely moving towards that. And I feel like with the appointment of Erik ten Hag, I feel like he's definitely going to, move towards that rebuild, a new Manchester United. But no, I really don't think he's trying to, protect his legacy. I truly feel like he wants the best out of Man United. But if they're not going to be supportive, if they are all not going to work together with each other towards that one common goal, I just think whatever he's doing right now is justifiable in that sense.
Okay, do you think that there's a rumor going on that eventually when he goes up to the consultancy role, he works pretty much 6 days in a month and whatnot? Do you think there's any truth to that, or it's just basically media spin?
It's kind of 50-50 for me. I can get why it's a media spin because it's obviously trying to cater to the fans. It's obviously trying to say that Ralf Rangnick will still have a say, at the top of the hierarchy and stuff like that. But I also feel like he has to have a say in this club as well. If not, if obviously the Glazers, if they're still where they are right now, if they still have no certain change to the top of that chair, I really feel like Manchester United won't progress in any possible way. And I feel like having Ralf Rangnick at the top of that place there, at the top of the board, like I said, it won't really start a revolutionary rebuild, but it's definitely moving towards it. So you always have to start from somewhere. lah. So I really hope it's true that Ralf Rangnick is definitely going to stay in the club, be there, even though it's for 6 days a week. I still hope that he still has a say in this club because I cherish it, you cherish it, even Roger cherishes it. I just want something out of this club finally, lah. So I really hope that he stays for that.
I think there's a bit of a shift in how we appear to be running things now. I think Ed Woodward has left, Richard Arnold has come in, and we can see slight improvements here and there. Football people are being put in charge of football decisions. There's been a change in the scouting department. Our two leading scouts have left. There has been plans being made to improve Carrington and Old Trafford. So yeah, so far in judging what Richard Arnold has done, I think even the appointment of Erik ten Hag, I think things have been going in the right direction.
But then, with another recent, again, a rumor, because we don't know how true it is, right? I think Ten Hag wants Steve McLaren to actually come in as part of his team. But then apparently the board, they are sanctioning the move of Steve McLaren. What do you think about that, Roger?
So I think based on the latest reports, the club are open to speaking to Steve McLaren. If we do decide to sanction or stop Erik ten Hag from assembling whoever he wants for the club, I think that still shows that the board does not really respect what the manager, or is restricting what the manager does in that sense. So the board is still in power, which it's really
it's frustrating and tiring because
yes,
it's again the same cycle and over and over again.
Yes.
Because I'm sure all of us United fans, Manish, yourself, Roger, and the rest of the guys, so we are sick and tired of this cycle, which repeats itself every single time ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United. Okay, so having said all of this, how the way that the club is run, how our board is more into commercial success and whatnot. You see, how excited are you? All right, from the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being like meh, 10 being super excited of the appointment of Erik ten Hag as the new manager of Manchester United.
Manish,
Roger.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with the appointment. I think it's been way too long since we've played football the right way, and based off what we've seen with Ajax, the way they play is scintillating. The way the players move, interchange, the way they create space for one another. We have had so many problems with a low block for so many years. And this Ajax team just is able to drag opposition defenders out of their position and score so many goals. And, we've looked across the pond. We've looked at Liverpool and City and how they have managers come in and the right players, and we've had the wrong managers come in and we have the wrong players come in. And right now, I believe that we have the right manager, and the next step is to bring in Man United caliber players, the players that he actually wants, the players that fit into his system.
Okay, Manish, with regards to Erik ten Hag being announced as the Manchester United manager, right? So do you think this announcement, right, it's timed nicely just to cover up the loss at Anfield that day?
In a way, I do feel, I do feel like it's a big cover up, because I think it was more or less confirmed like about a week ago, just like a few days ago before the match, but like it was only officially announced after, the Liverpool match, which I really can't deny it, but say that it was a cover up for, the embarrassing defeat that we had at Anfield. Already losing 5-0 to them, I think mid of October was already another embarrassing element. I don't want to touch on that yet. But again, losing 4-0 to them was just disappointing, but at the same time, I wasn't really surprised as well. So the only way they could, again, cater to the fans and, have them, build up this hype for yet another manager to come in, was to definitely announce it at that certain period of time. So there's someone there pulling the strings in their, how would I say, their social media accounts. And whatever they're doing seems to be working, because the fans, for some reason, in all respect, for some reason, they seem to have looked past on like the Liverpool defeat, and now all their focus is now on Erik ten Hag. And whatever they did was effective in that sense.
Yeah, but I think in a way the board is confident with Arsenal and Chelsea. Like they should have, maybe dragged it a bit more. Like, oh, we are still in the midst of discussion, or we are almost there. 2 more clauses or something like that we need to include, and done. So but in a way I agree with you because okay. So moving on to the next question. All right. So Roger, I'm going to ask you this. All right, because you got strong opinions with how the club is being run, with the owners and whatnot. All right. So what do you think of the role of the United, I mean, generally the Manchester United and also the players' PR team with regards to, how the club is being run and also how we are being portrayed on social media? Because we face it, this is the age of social media, right? Basically, no matter how much we fight it, we'll be looking at our phones, we'll be feeding and all this kind of information and whatnot.
I think the PR team has been embarrassing. We are so social media focused. I think the board has always treated the club as a business or a brand, as what LVG has said. Every move is calculated in order to get the most engagements. The type of players that we sign, the products that we launch, who we partner with, what makes our stock price increase. And the football on the pitch has been secondary to all these things. And these PR people, this team of people around the players, to me, it does not seem like they have the players' best interests at heart. I think that the higher the profile of the player, the higher they are able to escalate the player to what they are supposedly not. Like, for example, Marcus Rashford, he is not that great of a player. He is an overrated Wayne Routledge. But he has been made to be this superstar, the replacement for Wayne Rooney, inherit the number 10, in that sense. The next generation, the class of 92 comes again, all that stuff. I think the higher the profile of player they get, the more engagements they get, the more money they make. And that's where the priorities of these people lie. They are creating these quickly clean personas of the players. Marcus Rashford comes to mind. And it gets to the point where, as a fan, I feel so detached. I don't know who the Marcus Rashford is. That day, when Marcus Rashford had that spat with the fan, is the day I found out Marcus Rashford is that sort of person. So yes.
But wouldn't you say, that incident, the one, I think you're talking about the incident whereby he was like asking the fan to say it to my face or something.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you consider that passion? Okay, like, I can't remember it was after what game or whatnot, but I think it was a loss or something like that. It was bad. And then wouldn't you call that a passionate player? he was really frustrated and whatnot. What do you think?
So I
Roger?
think it comes down to the same thing with what Harry Maguire did before the Liverpool game. The interview that came out about how managers constantly pick him because he is doing something well. These people around the players are putting ideas into the players' heads that they are good players.
Better than what they actually
better
are.
than what they are not. So if they have a very bad game, they'll say, "Oh, you were unlucky with that pass. You were unlucky with that shot. You could have, the player was just a bit faster than you on that play. In that sense." And Marcus Rashford, for all that he's done this season, and I think the second half of last season, I think he has to take criticism in the face and say, humble himself, not be so arrogant, and say, yeah, I actually deserve this. I am sorry. But he goes to the fan. He's been playing like shit. And he goes to the fan and says, why don't you say this to my face? What gives him the right?
Exactly. So, Manish, okay, since we are talking about Marcus Rashford, okay, I mean, the viewers would know my opinion on Marcus Rashford, okay, all right. So, how much would you think that, what's going on with Marcus Rashford right now? Is it because he's losing focus, or is it because it's a shot of his confidence? His confidence is low, and then he's trying to pick back up. And then, with all the social media and whatnot, that's the thing about United. Once we are saying that 2 years back, we were saying that, Marcus Rashford, he's going to be the one to break Wayne Rooney's record and whatnot. Actually, fans were the one who actually gave him, in a way, this kind of positivity and whatnot. And then right now, boom, all the way to the ground. So maybe how much do you think it's probably because of all these kind of distractions, or maybe he's just not the player that we thought he is?
During the 2018-2019 season, and especially the 2019 and 2020 season, I found Marcus Rashford an extremely brilliant player. I felt that he was one of Manchester United's best upcoming. I did have a phase where he could have inherited, Wayne Rooney's legacy and whatnot, right? I think everyone also had gone through that same phase. But for some reason, the injury-prone Marcus Rashford plays better than the Marcus Rashford who doesn't have any injuries, who does not, get themselves as involved as how they used to last time. And for some reason, that just seems so bizarre because he gets his surgery, he goes through all these medical procedures and stuff like that. But he just comes out 2 times worse. And that's what really shocked me this season. And like Roger said, the second half of last season as well. And I feel like Marcus Rashford now has become a spokesperson for Manchester United. Every time they lose a game or every time they get a very unsatisfying result, he goes onto Twitter and then says like, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is for all the fans." He tries to coddle them up. He tries to pacify them with all these sweet words, and then the next week he just goes and does the same thing over again, and the cycle just repeats. So, in the end, what I'm trying to say is that Marcus Rashford, he did have the potential at that time, and he might still have the potential. But what I feel now is that he's definitely losing his confidence. Especially with the arrival of Cristiano Ronaldo. I think before then, all eyes were locked on him and Bruno Fernandes, Paul Pogba, all these star players. And when Cristiano Ronaldo just comes into the picture, he just outshines everyone in that sense. So I do feel like he's losing his confidence in that sense. And if he doesn't get better, they're just going to have to find another replacement for him. And I've heard this comparison between him and Lingard. Obviously, 2 players who play 2 different positions of the team. But for some reason, Jesse Lingard, he doesn't quite have as many starts as Rashford does. But for some reason, I see more passion in Jesse Lingard. Even though he made the move to West Ham last season, he still had that passion for that club and he still has the respect for that club until now. But when he came back to Manchester United, he just gives his all. I don't see the same passion and the same, commitment in Rashford up till now. And that's very disappointing because people go in, week out, just to see a bang-out performance from him. And what they get in return is the same thing that they got last week. The same performance and then the same tweet that comes out. It just becomes very tiring for us. And yeah, it's just sad to see Marcus Rashford in this state now.
I think there's a big difference between the style of play when Marcus Rashford was actually doing well and what's happening now. Ole, I think he thrived a lot under Ole because we played very counter-attacking football. So if there's space for him to run, for us to hit a wonder pass, and there's space for him to run and latch onto the ball with, I think he does well. When we play against a low block, he is rendered ineffective. And teams have figured Marcus Rashford out. He does the same thing over and over again.
Actually,
he
it's not
runs
only
into blind alleys and so on.
Not even Marcus Rashford. I think when Greenwood was around also, I think teams already figured him out. People like Anthony Martial and even Ronaldo to a certain degree, people already figured him out. Is it? So yeah, that's why. Which brings me to the next question. All right. So, do you think okay, I'm going to throw a few names out, right, Roger? All right, Marcus Rashford. All right, Paul Pogba. Maybe Jesse Lingard, Harry Maguire. Do you think players like this, they do actually have something they call player power in the dressing room? They will actually influence how. I mean, regardless of what the managers say and whatnot, they will actually influence how the whole team performs.
For player power, I think the younger players will come up and they will look at world stars like a Paul Pogba, like a Marcus Rashford, players who have all these followers, who have all these clips on YouTube that highlights all their goals and all their skills and whatnot. There is definitely a lot of influence from these players, and for new players to come in, they do not want to be left out of that circle in that sense. So they'll definitely they'll definitely pander to players like this. But I would say that a lot of blame has to fall on Ole. Don't get me wrong. I talk a lot about Ole. I've talked a lot about Ole tonight, but I love him. He's a legend. But as a manager, he did not serve us well. The intensity in training was so lackluster that our fitness levels fell below Premier League standard, and the players have now forgotten how to work hard. The way he protected them, calling bad performances unlucky, like I said before, that he was happy with bad performances, that has all made the players into prima donna crybabies, throwing their toys out the pram when they don't get what they want. I don't want to train at night because I'm afraid of the dark. Rangnick makes us work too hard. Chris Armas is American. We've had reports of them preferring Poch over Erik ten Hag, all that sort of crap. What gives them the right to dictate who their boss, their incoming boss is? That's not right. To be so arrogant enough to believe that their opinion counts towards the future of a football club like Manchester United. Yeah, if they are successful, okay, if they've won trophies for us, yeah, we might take their opinion into account. But they are failures. They have failed so many managers. They have failed the fans, and they failed themselves.
Okay, so Manish, having listened to what Roger had to say about our current United, I mean, the way in the dressing room, the way the players, act and whatnot, right? So do you think that having a manager like Erik ten Hag, an up-and-coming manager, even Pep acknowledges him as someone who could actually take over Man City and whatnot. So do you think that he has what it takes to actually clear out all these kind of dead wood, reset everything, remove the toxicity in the club? What do you think?
At the time being, I'm just going to keep my expectations really low because I thought of the same thing with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, even though, again, he's a club legend. We all loved him and the expectations for him was so high. And I just don't want to make the same thing with Erik ten Hag, even though he has more experiences. He's managed such a huge club like Ajax. But I still want to keep my expectations really low. All I ask for is good football. And for that to happen, he needs to have his say. He needs to be out there. He needs to be outspoken, especially to the board. I feel like, especially with the Glazers, they're kind of like pulling on the strings in whatever the manager has to say or whoever they need to appoint. I feel like that needs to come to a dead stop. And I definitely feel like the only two people that could have, done this approach or have even come close to that was one, Antonio Conte. He's made the move to Spurs, obviously, and Erik ten Hag. So I can only hope and pray that Erik ten Hag, lives up to my expectation. It's not much, but I just want Manchester United to be rebuilt in this new, fresh, elegant way and just get back into winning ways, because that's what Manchester United is in its essence. Just going out there, having fun, and you'd bring the trophy home at the end of the day. There was no worries. You'd be guaranteed that trophy. And nowadays, that guarantee is really hard to get as well. So in that respect, I feel like Erik ten Hag, he will bring a lot of change to the club, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, I mean, both of you mentioned a lot of stuff about Ole, but you can't deny, right, that the best football that we have watched ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left was during Ole interim. Right? I'm very sure that both of you were singing the Ole's at the wheel song. Everyone was buzzing. That what 10 to 15 games or whatnot. Right up to that night in Paris. I think it was fantastic and whatnot. And obviously after that, it all went downhill from there. So having said that, all right, Roger. So how much time do you think that the fans will give Erik ten Hag? All right, because Ole pretty much we gave him I think 2 years and whatnot. Before that, there's echoes and whispers of Ole out, and then eventually it got too bad that I mean the whole fan base pretty much turned on him. So how much time do you think that Erik ten Hag will get?
I think for Erik ten Hag, from what we've seen through all the polls, like Gary Neville had the poll the other day where 80% of the fan base actually wants Erik. I think this shows that we are, for the first time in so many years, united in a sense where we are moving in the same direction. The club appears to be moving in the same direction as the fans. And we'll definitely give him time, because for Erik ten Hag, things will definitely not be easy. He's coming in at a time where we need a complete rebuild. It's extremely easy for us. For FIFA players, I play FIFA, right? So it's extremely easy for us to say that we need to sell this player, to buy that player, to play this way, to play that way. But every manager, especially in this case, will need time to completely get the players to play the way he wants, to get the players that he needs. And if we look at the players that are going to move or supposedly are going to move, I think there are about 11 players. Pogba, Lingard, Martial, Bailly, Henderson, Mata, Matic, Jones, Tuanzebe, Pereira, forgotten Pereira, Cavani.
Pirlo.
That's one team, That's a whole team. That's 11 players. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, no worries. They are the dead wood. But I think that that's the wrong mentality to have, because you can't run training with 11 players. You need a minimum of 25 players to run training. You can't have 11 versus 11 training matches in that sense. So when Ralf actually talked about 8 to 10 players arriving, obviously this depends on the board and how much they give to Erik ten Hag. I can actually see a revolution happening. I think there are good deals to be done. And based on the reports, why Erik ten Hag, why we took a bit of time to come into an agreement with Erik, it was because he wanted to make decisions on recruitments with the club. And fingers crossed, he'll be able to bring in who he wants, players who can work in the system. And for the life of me, I hope we get hard-working, fast, technical, aggressive players, because the mood in the changing room and on the pitch needs to change.
Okay, so Manish, what are your expectations? Okay, assuming that the players, the proper players come in. Of course, okay, we can't expect the whole dressing room to change. Maybe 4 good players, let's say 4 good incoming players come in, all right? And then pretty much the board supports the decision, Erik ten Hag's decision of removing any, players that do not fit into his system, right? Assuming all of that is said and done, what's your expectations for next season?
Again, I'm going to keep it at the very minimum. All I'm asking for is a top 4 finish in the Premier League. supposedly, if we even qualify for the Conference League this season, I want at least maybe we make it to the quarters or semis next season. But again, I'm not asking for much. I'm not expecting for big trophies to come in, in just one whole season that he's there. But I just really hope that we see a new style of football, because that's what you really want from when you're switching from managers to managers. You want to be able to compare them. And when Erik ten Hag comes, when he brings his own staff, his own set of people to train their team, you really want to see that change, especially on and off the pitch. And I feel like with Erik ten Hag, all I can do right now is just, keep my fingers crossed and pray for the best.
What happened to the high confidence deluded United fans? Last season we were shouting, "Oh, top 4 finish, are you sure top 4? Oh my god, oh." And now how far we have fallen. All right, so Roger, how about you? What's your expectation for next season? Come on, man, give us some excitement and whatnot.
So we're gonna get a complete review, but we are Manchester United and we have standards. I think the minimum would be a top 4 finish, but I would understand and still give the manager time if things do not appear as how we would want them to.
Trophies? No one is talking about trophies. Even the Carabao Cup, Mickey Mouse Cup, anything like that.
I think the level of the teams in the EPL especially is extremely high. City always go all out for the League Cup, so it's not a cup where you play a reserve team anymore. And things have changed. And
then we can actually see potential teams like Newcastle. All right, I think they're gonna be a big problem to most teams next season. Like Aston Villa and whatnot. So yeah, Spurs. All right, Spurs, Arsenal. The way that they are playing football now under Arteta. I really, really hope tomorrow, right? I mean, this is pre-recorded and whatnot, but tomorrow I really hope that we win, man. You know what's worse? What's worse than losing 4-0 to Liverpool, 1-0 to Arsenal? Because their fans, the Arsenal fans, oh my God, I just want to strangle them, man. All right, so anyway, guys, we are at the end of our show, right? I want to thank Roger. Thanks, Manish, for joining us, all right? And probably we'll get you guys on for some other episodes next time, all right? Thanks, all right? So like usual,
All right,
guys,
thank
please
you.
like, share, subscribe, leave your comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next episode, all right? Good night.